Okay, so okay, good afternoon, everyone. Happy Sunday today. Thank you so much for joining us again in another edition of TCRM Talk. Yes, so today is Sunday, the 7th of August, first Sunday in the month of August, where we always engage and get young people to share their ideas and their thoughts on a given topic. So today we'll be talking about bridging generational gap to foster development in Cross River State. And just to remind you who we are, TCRM is known as the Cross River Movement. And the Cross River Movement is a non-partisan, non-governmental, not-for-profit, reformative organization that together Christians and Christians worldwide and provide a platform for them to engage, to collaborate, and take actions towards creating a brighter future for Cross River State. And here, TCRM Talks is just one of those platforms where we achieve this objective. And in TCRM Talks, we basically engage in exchange of educative ideas that can contribute to the development of Cross River State, in case you're wondering what this is about. So for our topic today, we know that to achieve sustainable development goals in Cross River State, there is a need to leverage the full potentials of all generations. Solidarity across generations is key to sustainable development in Cross River State. And this topic was selected in connection to the amazing events we have in the month of August. So we know that August 12th of August every year is the International Youth Day, where we get to celebrate the energy, the drive, the vision, the vibrance, and the relevance of young people all over the world. So today we would have honor Miss Miss Honor Obasi to take us on the topic. And just before we bring her on board, I'll give you a little basis on the population strength in Cross River State as to the younger and older person population. Then we'll bring her on board. So basically, in Cross River State, as at the 2006 census, we had over 2.8 million persons in Cross River State, and that population was projected to increase to about 3.8 million in 2016. And in this population demography, we have young persons from 10 to 19 of over 600,000, from 20 to 29 of over 500,000, 30 to 39 years of over 350,000, and then from 40 to 49 years of over 250,000, and 50 to 69 years of over 200,000. So this age demography is basically to let you understand that we have quite a number of elderly and young persons in Cross River State. But the question is, how do we bridge the generational gap to ensure that we are able to curb the age difference so that we can work together, bring in our intergenerational experience, cultural background, and all of what you have to ensure that Cross River State can prosper, can grow, and develop in every way possible. So, what Obasi Tawo, our speaker, she is a lawyer by profession. She is a social entrepreneur. And when she's not in the courtroom, she is busy advocating for health challenged citizens, especially those with sickle cell anemia. And this passion led on Foundation in 2018. She is also a Mandela Washington Fellow and the current legal advisor and National Secretary of the Mandela Washington Fellowship Alumni Association of Nigeria. So I'll be happy if we can make welcome our speaker on board. And please, just before she comes on, this session will last for approximately 1 hour. So we'll have Onobasi take us through her session for about 30 to 45 minutes, after which we would open the floor for questions, contributions, and general opinion. So thank you, Onobasi. The floor is over to you now. You're muted. Can you unmute?
Sorry for the glitch. Can you hear me now?
Yes, please, we can.
Okay, thank you. I was saying thank you for having me here. I'm grateful for the opportunity to speak. I actually was not supposed to be a speaker. It was supposed to be Brenda Effiong, but for some reason she's unavoidably absent and I had to step in to speak on her behalf. I hope with your cooperation, we would all do justice to the topic. And the topic again is bridging generational gap to foster development in Cross River State. Before I say anything, I would like us to have this at the back of our mind, that today we are the leaders of tomorrow. Tomorrow will be the grandparents of the future. Now, the decisions that we make today in making the environment more inclusive, whether it's in the workplace, in the developmental space, would determine to a large extent the world, how inclusive the world of our grandchildren would have us. I don't know if you understand that. I'll say that again. Today, we are the leaders of tomorrow. Tomorrow, we will be the grandparents of the future. The decisions we make now to make our world more inclusive will, to a large extent, determine how inclusive the world of our grandchildren will be for us. Now, to go further to the topic, I'd like us to understand that the world, just like moderator has given us a breakdown of the population of both young people and old people in Cross River State. The world is not just made up of a particular set of people that think alike. If we all thought alike, this world will not be interesting at all. If we all thought alike and acted alike and behaved alike, there'll be nothing interesting in this world. So there's diversity, and then there's that age gap. And then the fact that there is a younger generation does not mean that the older generation does not have value, or the fact that there is an older generation does not mean that the younger generation has lost its value. People born and raised in different generations hold different perspectives on topics because of the gap in cultural understanding. And this gap has to be bridged so that we get to understand ourselves. We, as Christians, we remember what happened in the Tower of Babel. There are a lot of people, they spoke one language and they had one purpose. The purpose was build a tower that will get to heaven, until God divided their language, right? So this one was speaking something different from what the next person was speaking. And what happened at the end of the day? That the purpose could not be achieved because everybody was speaking different languages. Nobody was understanding the other person. It's the same thing. When we as a state cannot bridge the gap, this gap exists whether we like it or not. So long as people keep being born every day, this gap will always be there. So it behoves on us to find solutions to bridge this gap for the progress of the state, for the progress, whether it's the state, whether it's a country, whether it's even a family. Even in a family, let me say that, even in a family, except the family gives birth to twins, twins all along or twins at the same time. Even in a family, there's still generational gap. A family that has children born, okay, you had children born every 2 years, okay, you may not have such evident generational gap. But a family that has a child that is born, like my family, for instance, in the 1980s, you have another child that is born in the 1990s, and another child that is born in 2000. Of course, even though we're brought up in the same environment, brought up by the same parents, our perspectives and views towards life will definitely be different. But there has to be a point of convergence where we say, okay, there has to be a point of convergence, a point where we say, okay, this is how we are going to run this thing, a point where we can all listen to ourselves and understand ourselves and be able to meet everybody's need. Now, going forward, I'd like us, let me not just talk scattered, I'd like us to identify these generational gaps. Mrs. Didion, if you don't mind, can we unmute? I have two that I would fully explain in the course of this talk, but I would like this to be interactive. Can we unmute and state these generational gaps? What areas do we have generational gaps? I'd like it to be interactive, please. Anybody can answer that?
Okay, yes, we can unmute. Maybe Emma can take that. I'm seeing one Emma here. Hi, Emma, are you there?
If you have an answer.
I am.
Okay.
I am. What was the question again?
Okay, I said I want us to identify some of the generational gaps we've noticed in the course of our work or our lives before I go on with what I already have written here.
Thank you. I think the new generation is more tech savvy than the older generation. They are more forward thinking. There's a lot of opportunities, and I think the internet has made the world a very small place. And so our younger generation are just forging forward really well.
Thank you so much, Emma. That has actually touched on one of the points in fact, my first point that I identified, the technological gap. To save our time, let me just go on with what I have stated. First, I made note of the technological gap. Just like Emma said, the younger generation is more tech savvy. They are more open to opportunities. They are ready to up and get going if the need arises. It's not the same as the older generation. The older generation, we are cautious. Okay, I'm saying we, like I'm part of I'm somewhere in between, but we like to be cautious. We like to be sure. We like to take our time, and then even it's not like we cannot learn this technological stuff. We cannot handle the use of devices, but it gets boring. We get bored very easily, but it's not so with the younger generation. I'll give, especially with the coming of COVID, with the COVID era and all that we've had, everybody has had to embrace the use of technology. It's at that point that, okay, the older generation are beginning to understand that, well, I have to know this thing if I have to stay relevant, if I have to keep communicating with the people that I need to communicate with, if I have to keep engaging with the people that I need to engage with. So for the older generation, it's more like technology is a necessity, but it's something that is necessary. So I just use it because it's necessary. But for the younger generations, like technology is life. We hear stuff like data is life. In older times, you could pass through, for example, a house with, let's say, 15 children, and then you hear a lot of noises. Children are outside playing. parents and other older children are inside discussing. There's actually activity going on. But today, the house can have 10 people and you won't hear a sound because everybody is busy on their devices. Now the purpose may be different. Somebody could be playing game on their devices. Somebody could be could be having a virtual meeting like I'm having right now. I'm using my device, and someone else could be making a phone call. So like there are various purposes of technology right now. So it is necessary that both the old and the younger generation come to terms with the use of technology, that we bridge this generational gap so that we can all benefit. The second gap I identified is the knowledge and experience gap. While the technological gap was more in favor of the younger generation, this knowledge and experience is more like in favor of the older generation because they have that. We have this African adage that what an elder sees sitting, a young person, even if he stands up, will not see it. Even if you climb an iroko, you will not see it. So that's the value of experience. So let me give this inference with my law practice. So a person that has just finished law school, I would say, has as much knowledge as the person that is a son, right? The knowledge is the same. What is different is experience. So the person that just finished law school has not had the court experience, does not know what it feels like or how to defend himself if on a very good day you have won your suit, won your wig and gown, your file is ready, your processes are ready, and you go to court and you have it in mind that this is what you're going to do, and then you do it and that's done. But you go to court and something else that you did not plan for happened. A younger lawyer may not know how to deal with that situation. But an older lawyer would be very relaxed because these things have been happening over time. So I know how to deal with it. That's the difference. That's the thing. That's the experience gap. So I'm going to go forward to how do we bridge this gap. Let's talk about the technological gap. Technology as we know it is changing every facet of our lives, every facet of our human lives, every facet of our existence, especially with COVID, that with the introduction of COVID, technologically, everything has improved. So businesses that formerly were just run physically, businesses that formerly were just run on site, because of COVID, a lot of people had to be home. A lot of people, because of boredom, had to go on their devices. So a lot of businesses were actually being done via devices. A lot of businesses had to close up their physical shops because nobody is coming out to come and buy anything physically. Let's look at the e-commerce aspect. I didn't really do a lot of research into that, but we will understand that in 2020, at the peak of the COVID, there was a lot of online buying. There were a lot of online sales. So the people that were already positioned for that made a lot of money in the peak of the COVID. And then other businesses were soon joining, were closing up shop and coming online, setting up their shops online. What particularly we saw with our churches, especially, a lot of churches introduced their online services. A lot of churches that were not even tech savvy, that you will not expect that, okay, but they had to do that because there were a lot of restrictions on movement, there were a lot of restrictions on gathering. If you had to gather, it had to be less than, it had to be 50 people or less. You had to use protective clothing and all of that. So it was if you are going to call people to come out to church, you cannot send people back, say, okay, we've had 50 people, so the rest of you go back. So a lot of churches had to go go do, it's not just churches, religious organizations generally had to come online. So, and then technological advancements progress. We began using Zoom. We began using a lot of virtual platforms. Bridging the technological gap in this. Number one, I stated three solutions to this. Number one is that we should understand that understand what each generation requires of its leader. If you understand that, okay, the older generation, what do they require of their leaders is different from what the younger generation requires of their leaders, especially Gen Z generation. What they require of leadership is an opportunity to blossom, an opportunity to grow professionally. They need trainings, and then they need that liberty, and they also need the older generation will not mind working unpaid, volunteering unpaid, but the younger generation, no. Most of them will not take up any internship, even if it is, no matter how juicy it is, if it is unpaid for, if there is no stipend or allowance to that, because of course you have to survive while at it. The older generation may not mind. They may focus on, oh, let me just get the knowledge, I will get by somehow. But the younger generation, they are more proactive, they are more adventurous. They just believe that, okay, if I don't get it, I can source other opportunities online, because I mean, Google is your friend. There's nothing you cannot search for in under 3 minutes or so. So they can do that. They have the power of the technology on their palm. So they're not static. They're not in a place. So they can always do that. So in bridging this technological gap, we should understand that each generation requires certain things from its leadership. So whatever leadership that is going to govern this generation in one state, in one organization, should understand that what this person is expecting of leadership is different from what this other person, this younger generation, is expecting of the leadership, and inculcate that these leadership styles together. And then it should also take cognizance of the purpose why each person is doing what they would is getting involved in the use of that technology. For example, my dad is a marriage counselor in church, not here in Calabar. So during the COVID era, it's the church or marriage counseling rules that if any couple has to get married, they have to physically leave whatever they are doing and come to the church where they are getting married to, and go through counseling for 6 months, like physical counseling for 3 months rather, for 3 months. And then COVID realities began happening, and marriages were not as static or in the same place or put together or in the same locality as they had expected it or as it used to be. So before, people that are getting married are usually people in the same location, right? They're people in the same location. But then we began to see marriages, people getting married, but that are in different locations. So one person could be in Abuja and the other person is in Ibadan. And then they're all working professionals. If this person should take leave and this person should take leave and come and do marriage counseling, they cannot leave their jobs for 3 whole months. So even if they should leave their jobs for 3 whole months, they don't have, they want to get married in this church. They don't have a house to stay for the period of 3 months they are going to be there. So that's like frustrating, right? So my dad, what he usually does is with his phone is make calls, send text messages, take pictures, and all of that. But when these realities began to happen, my younger brother had to tell him that there's another way we can do this. There's something called Zoom meetings. There's something called virtual meetings. You could actually have virtual calls with these people and have your counseling sessions. It will cost you some data, but it will save everybody a lot of stress. This man will not have to move from Abuja to Ikom. This lady will not have to move from Enugu to Ikom just to have a counseling class and go back to their various lives and then come back the next week for another counseling class. With that said, that was enough reason to give them, to allow my dad is of the older generation, of course, to use Zoom meetings. I think that was the first time he ever had to use Zoom meetings. But then on a normal day, if you had told him, okay, let's just have a Zoom meeting or a Zoom call, you'd be like, why? What's in it for me? So if you're going to introduce technological change or have technological change fits in a condition where both the younger generation and the older generation will enjoy it, you have to define the purpose. You have to define what is in it for each of these persons that are involved. Another point here is that there have to be clear two-way communications. Now, I know the older generations like to insist, we are the older ones, when we talk, you should listen. Yes, we've been listening, but the younger generations, somebody once said that you have gray hair is not just a sign of wisdom. Even foolish people grow old, right? Even foolish people grow old. Foolish people have gray hair. But that's aside. That's not so that's not intended to insult though. But then there should be a two-way communication. When the older generations brings their perspective, they should also be open to listen to that of the younger generation as well. And then we also have to have it at the back of our mind that with technology, there is no end. Like, as much as technology is changing things, that's how much technology is changing itself. So we have to keep learning and relearning in the sense that we have to have training programs every now and then for these learning experiences, and then make these training programs such that it's accessible to everybody, not just generationally, but everybody according to their learning abilities. So we can have, for example, have an on-site training that is equally a virtual training. So people that cannot access the on-site training can access it virtually. And then I learned a lot from my experience as a Mandela Washington Fellow. I happen to be a 2021 Mandela Washington Fellow. And then because of the COVID realities that year, we could not travel. So we had a virtual leadership experience. And even though it fell short of our expectation, because the expectation was that we were going to travel to the US and have a leadership program, even though it fell short of that expectation. But I would say the online learning platform was made diverse enough so that individuals, whether old or young, individuals that are differently abled or disabled, could participate fully. So we had a platform like this. We had lectures on Zoom. We also had course outline laid for us on other virtual platforms. And then every time we had a meeting, we always had a sign language interpreter, because we had people that were deaf among us. We had people that were visually impaired, people that were hard of hearing. So that was provided for. In Nigeria, for example, we take for granted that people with disabilities exist. I know we are talking about generational gap, but this is part of bridging the gap. So we are having, like this meeting is going on now. We are having this meeting now. There's a tendency that somebody that is hard of hearing is a participant in this meeting, but is not participating because the resources to help him participate is not available, right? So during our program, even if the sign language interpreter was not available for some reason, or the person that is supposed to benefit from that sign language interpreting could not see the screen. At least we had, what do they call that? Transcriptions of what was being said. I'm sure Zoom can transcribe what I'm saying right now. If my co-host, or rather my host, can activate that setting. It's another way of making technology more accessible to persons across generations, across ages, across various differences, across diversity, so that everybody understands at their level, everybody understands at their pace. Okay. So let's now talk about the knowledge and experience gap. How do we bridge that knowledge and experience gap? I would say through mentorship and a succession plan. Through mentorship and a succession plan. Mentorship works a lot. It works a lot. Now, we know that, or rather, the older generation has a role to play in mentoring the younger generation, right? We understand that there is an African thing. I don't know if it's an African thing, but it's more prominent in Africa, where we hoard knowledge, we hoard information, right? We are hoarding. Meanwhile, if we look at the population census of young persons and old persons in Cross River State, from what she read and from resources that I checked online, we see that there are more older people, or rather, from what she said, there are less older persons than younger persons. So there's a lot more people to mentor. There's a lot more people that we need to pass this information, the information that we already have. Now, we know older people that are in positions of authority, that are in political positions, that are business-minded, but then they hold this information. They don't share it. That is a responsibility. We have to bring the older generation to understand that you are not always going to be here. You are not. We see that especially in the political scene. So somebody has been a head of state in the military regime, and then in political era, he has been the governor, and then he has gone through term as a governor, and then he's already in the Senate. And is it only you? Don't you have room for mentorship? Let us bring our older people to the realization that you will be gone someday, and if you don't share this idea, you have left a lot undone, because it's not just enough that you came and you did so much. What is your succession plan? Who would fill your shoes when you're no longer there? Let our older ones come to that realization. And then there's also a role for the younger generation. Yes, we have knowledge at our fingertips. We can be whatever we want to be. We can go, in fact, it doesn't matter that I'm in Calabar, I'm a global citizen. I can decide that I want to do this. It doesn't matter where that place is. I can cut across continents. I can cut across countries with the power of technology, right? But I still need mentorship. I still need experience, especially people of the Gen Z generation. A lot of them disregard the place of mentorship, and that is not supposed to be so. As a young person, are you teachable? I know you know a lot, but what you know, how far would it take you before you have to know that you have to bend down and do something? So I'm a lawyer. I've had 7 years post-call experience, but my father still had not trusted my lawyerly abilities enough to give me work to do for him. He could recommend my services for other of his friends. He could give me something small, like write me a demand letter, but not the big ones, right? He will not give me his big cases to do. because he did not trust my ability until I started working in the law firm I'm currently attached to. It was just a month I began working in this firm, and my dad calls, "How is work now?" And I'm like, "Work is very fine." It was like, should I send them my case? It's not like this is just 1 month I started working. I've learned so much, but because that I'm under the mentorship and tutelage of a bigger lawyer that he trusts that, okay, even if she should go wrong or she will be corrected, right? That's what the power of mentorship can do. There are some people that will never trust you to do stuff for them because they don't know where you're coming from. I think it's one of the reasons why people are saying, Peter Obi doesn't have structure. Do we get? Because it's like, we don't know where it's coming from, even though that's okay. Let's not make this a political conversation, right? Let's not make this a political conversation. So the point I'm making is this: some people, are you in business that, as a matter of fact, there is nothing that you want to do in this life that somebody has not done it better. Who are you learning the ropes from? Or you're just getting all your sources from the internet, and then you're trying to build a thriving business from just your knowledge and what you've gotten from the internet. You need mentorship. You need mentorship, especially as a lawyer. The quality of the firm you're attached to will determine the quality of clients that you get, right? It will determine to a large extent the quality of clients that you get, the quality of cases that you do. I would give an example, but before the example, I want us to understand, I'm still speaking to the younger generation now. Success is not something that happens just like that. It's not like MMA. You give 20,000 today, in the next 1 hour, you get 40,000. I know we are in an Indomie generation. We want everything quick. We want to arrive at that destination just now. So you're 15 years old and you're thinking of a life where you are by yourself. You wake up in the morning and then you drive your Rolls Royce to your office, and you're thinking of dressing the way that a 50-year-old woman would dress. You're making a lot of comparisons, unnecessary comparisons that are putting you under undue pressure. That success takes a while to happen. And in that while that success is going to happen, you need a lot of mentorship. Yes, you can be a genius, but that genius requires refining. Now, Mandela Washington Fellowship Association, we recently had a mentorship program. We had a mentorship program with another organization. So we were supposed to mentor some persons, and then so mentors were paired with mentees. I had 2 mentees, and then the excitement of starting a new project. It's going to be awesome. We're going to have this mentor. She's going to guide us through every facet of everything that we want. It was exciting. When they paired us, from the emails, we already had our email address. I was like, okay, you guys, welcome. Let's fill out the forms that we've been assigned to fill. And then this is my WhatsApp number. You can reach me via the number, and then let us, when you finish filling out the forms, we'll set up a meeting, and then I'll get to answer the questions from your form. That was the last I heard of one of them. No reaching out, no sending her WhatsApp number, nothing. She just went mute. The second one reached out. She reached out to me on WhatsApp, and then it took like 2 months before she could fill out the form. I was the one now reaching out to her. reaching out. I could see from her WhatsApp status she was already running a non-profit, right? She was already running a non-profit and all of that. And that was excellent work. And she's just a teenager. It was excellent work she was doing, but it did not take away the fact that she needed guidance. So I just left it when she needed me for her to reach out. It took like 2 months before she could finish filling out the form that was given, the mentorship form. And then, okay, let us have a virtual meeting. You are the mentee. You're supposed to set up the meeting and invite your mentor. Oh, sorry, ma, she's busy. Okay, I was like, no problem. I would set up the meeting. I set up the meeting. I reached out even to the second person that had not reached out all the while. And I was on that meeting. I waited 10 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes. Nobody was showing up. I said, let me give them more time. 40 minutes, I ended the meeting. And then I left her a message. She did not see that message until 2 days' time. That is not the attitude of somebody that wants to learn, right? The only time she reached out to me was when she had this application she wanted to fill out, or she had filled out the application and she had submitted to somebody to review for her, but the person said the application was not connecting. So she now reached out to me with the application to help her connect the dots. And then it's from that application I knew that, okay, your idea is big, your idea is wow, but you need to know how to put it down, put your idea down on paper. Like, it's one thing to have an idea, and it's another thing to translate the idea on paper. It's another thing to be able to express that idea to your team that will be able, that are going to run with the idea. But if all you have is the idea, and then of course she has already started executing the idea by herself and a few other persons that she's been able to talk to understand like facets of the idea, I'm like, you're not going to go far like this. We have to have that meeting so that I will put certain aspects that you need to know straight to make you understand certain things. But that meeting was not forthcoming. Obviously, she was too busy. So that's what we have, especially in the Calabar developmental space. Everybody wants to be a CEO. No, that if you can be anything that you want to be, no problem. But then do you have the knowledge? Do you have the expertise enough to be CEO? Do you know what it means to be CEO, or you're CEO of something that is non-existent? It's the reason why we have volunteers. My volunteers, for example, I know they're volunteering with me, they're volunteering with another, and then it's like you're putting your I know they say you should not put your eggs in one basket, but when you're learning sickle cell advocacy and you're learning cancer and you're learning you're like you've diversified yourself. You cannot be just like you're not a master of any. You just come when there's an event and you function, and the other people have an event, you just go there and function. You're not gaining any worthwhile experience. It's not helping. It's necessary that you stay one place, you focus and learn what it is that you need to learn. I began my work at OK Sickle Cell Foundation based hugely on my work experience gathered at FHI 360. I volunteered with FHI 360 from 2015 to 2018. I volunteered as a logistic assistant and as a case manager. It was while there that I began OK Sickle Cell Foundation. The idea of beginning OK Sickle Cell Foundation did not just fall on me. I had to work with people. I had to engage with people before I learned that, okay, this is how stuff is being done. And then it's not just FHI. I took a yearly online course, Effective Communications for Healthy Outcomes. I think that is the point that started my work on this part. I always had the idea that I was going to do something like this, but I did not know how to start until I was exposed to these resources, until I was exposed to these persons, until I was exposed to the kind of environments that would bring out what I had planned or what I had imagined in my head to pass. So young persons, yes, you can be anything that you want to be, but you need somebody to hold your hands. You need somebody to guide you. And then another thing is on the older generation. I think the older generation should be also more open to giving young people opportunities to engage in strategic positions. Now, for instance, we have core members. Core members are sent, and then you're sent to a place, and then the boss, whatever place that the person is being sent to, look at you like, this person just came for 1 year, so let's not give the person any serious thing to do. So some core members are actually redundant. I'm using core members, for example, in their places of work. They just go to work and sit down. They are not being engaged. There's nothing that they are doing because the boss is like, if I tell you now what to do, in another year you will be gone. But then, is that not the value of why they are there? Even if they're going to be gone in another year, at least they will go with the knowledge that they have learned. I'm aware of a core member that was posted to, let me not mention the firm, but then she was like, the only thing that she was doing was receiving phone calls, like more like a receptionist. Like, meanwhile, she's supposed to be a lawyer. Like, she's supposed to be a lawyer, but they just kept her there to be doing the work of a receptionist. You answer phone calls, tell the person, whoever is visiting, whether this person is around or the person is not around. And she was like, that's not why I came here. I don't mind doing those things, but if added to being a receptionist, you can actually give me or engage me as a lawyer, I would be excited. It happens in
Hello, no, do we still have you? I think she's having network issues. Hi, no, do we still have you? Okay, I believe she's having network issues. Let's give her some time, and I'm sure she should be rounding up when she's back. Okay, I've been unable to reach her. While we're waiting for her to get back, I think I'd like to take suggestions and questions from our participants. Please, you can unmute yourself to, yeah, please you can unmute yourself to share your thoughts.
Okay. Good evening, everybody. Yeah, I heard as I dialed in, I heard her talking about young people not being disposed to charitable works, in the sense that young people, they should, I think the way she put it was that older people are more willing to do volunteer work than young people. Young people are more about the money, basically, something to that extent.
Yes, that was what she said.
But I tend to have a very slightly different experience, because I have come across quite a few young people that have engaged themselves in substantially charitable services, okay, whereby, I mean, there's a beautiful example that is very current, was some young lady who was working in a radio station or TV station in Lagos, quit her job because she wanted to be more politically active. Okay, now that is phenomenal, okay, because she seems to feel that in the here and the now, that, you know, that's what is demanded of her. A lot more, I tend to feel that a lot more young people actually go with their heart, for lack of a better way to define it. You know, they are more passionate. They are they follow their passion. And maybe not in Calabar as much as, it's not, maybe not be as easily visible in Calabar as it is in a place like Lagos, where you find a lot of young people quit their jobs, bankers quit their jobs in banking and go into baking, or quit their jobs in banking and go into hat making. You know, so they follow their passion, okay, and they've made success of it, but it was a gamble, because, you know, success is not a product you can go and pick on a shelf and say, okay, you know what, I bought success today, so I'm guaranteed of success. You know, so you find a lot of them. I find a lot of young people have actually challenged the norm. You know, another good example is he started as a comedian, now he's a musician, Femi Falana's son, okay, who is a lawyer, quit his legal profession, got his degree, quit, left it alone, and went to do comedy. Then turned from comedy, now he's into music. I mean, that's a huge gamble. You know, you don't, if you're not passionate, if you're not willing to risk all, you won't follow your heart. And in the today, I find a lot more young people following their heart, risking it all against family opinion, against popular opinion. They just go against the grain completely. And some of them succeed, some of them don't succeed as well. But the truth of the matter is that those few that succeed become beacons to those others behind them. You know, I mean, during the NSAS issue, the way young people mobilized was mind-boggling. I mean, I have a daughter, my oldest child is 27 now. She would go from the house, she would make drinks, she would take it to the Lekki toll gate and just share to people you don't know. You know, and a lot of them were doing, some would cook from their home, bring, people would just show up with food, drinks, became a jamboree until the Lekki Wahala, you know, but they were giving of themselves so totally, you know. So I have a slightly different experience from, what's her name? Ono Obasi Tawo. Yes. That, you know, young people, in my opinion, my generation, and I am, you know, in my mid-50s now, my generation were far more cash backed. If you didn't see the money, they ain't talking to you. You know, but, you know, our kids have come out differently, you know, thankfully though. You know, and so that's what I just wanted to chip in there, you know, that's all. But otherwise, you know, I'm okay. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. David, for your thoughts on our basis. So we just had to take a comment while your network was trying to set you on spot. So now that you're back, we'll hand the floor over to you, probably to begin to wrap up with what you have to share.
Okay, I was even on my last point before that glitch. Sorry about that.
Okay.
So the point I was making is that the older generation should be willing to engage young persons in strategic positions. I as a young person, I have enjoyed that in all my work experiences, and I'm grateful for that. Every place I've had to work, whether as a junior person, I've had the support of the person immediately above me, the person that has been supervising me. So I believe that if young persons are given this kind of opportunities, there's actually a chance for development both for the older generation and for the new generation. So with that, I have come to the end. And then I'd like to remind us of how I began, that today we are the leaders of tomorrow. This is to the younger generation. Tomorrow we will be the grandparents of the future. The decisions we make now to make our world more inclusive, especially for the older generation, will to a large extent determine how inclusive the world of our grandchildren will be for us. Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you so much, Honor Obasi Tawo. Thank you for being very discreet, and you managed your time very well as well. Thanks for the insights that you shared. And I like the fact that, so in summary, development cuts across, all sectors. I don't think I have to list or start mentioning all of them, but we know that development is all encompassing. And basically from what you have shared, for us to be able to achieve development, especially in Cross River State, there are lots of young persons here in Cross River State that, you go out in the morning and you see young, vibrant men on the streets of Calabar. Like, they don't have anything that they are up to. They're just about waiting for the next vehicle that will come, and they'll load and, we get peanuts, or some are just hanging around somewhere, or some ladies just wasting time and their lives, just by doing nothing. But you see, if you're able to bring in inclusiveness, mentorship, training, and education, and clear-cut communication between these two generations, then we would be able to foster development in Cross River State across all sectors: health, education, youth development, culture, and tourism. There are a lot of them, and I think that this is very important. This is going to be a very important step for all of us. I'll just open the floor to more contributions, questions, or thoughts, and then we'll take announcements and close the event for today. Thank you so much to everyone who has stayed through. So the floor is open to everyone now. Please turn on your mic, ask questions, and let's interact for the next 5 minutes here.
While someone is here to ask a question, I just want to add to what you have said. Cross River is generally considered as a laid-back state, or a civil service state. There's nothing going on here, and our people are. But I like to say that's not the case. That's really not the case. The same people that we say are lazy, they go to other states, like they go to Lagos. Like a lot, we've lost a lot of talents to Lagos and Abuja. These people go there, and no matter how what's the word to use, how tough that place is, they survive. They even become better than they were when they were in Calabar, but rather in Cross River State. The question is, what is the difference? That place has more opportunities. There are more people listening to them. There are more people listening to what they have to offer than right here in Cross River State. We have closed our doors to ourselves. We are hoarding knowledge. The people that should share experiences, that should take in intents, they are not doing that. So let the older generation, let them please take in these intents. Yes, some of us may not have we may not have a direction, but we are done with school. We are ready to take on anything. We are ready to learn on the job. Some jobs will be like, you have to be 26, 27 years old and then have an experience of a 50-year-old. Why do we have to do that? So open up the doors for internship opportunities, and see, there will be no lazying around like like we are having to call ourselves. There will be nobody idling around. We will not have all the issues or the developmental issues that we are having right now. I just wanted to add that. Thank you.
Yes, you're very correct, and that's very true. Okay, so hence there are no comments or questions for now. I'd like to take the announcement. So our next TCRM talks will be held on the 4th of September, and we will be talking about zoning of political offices. Should this remain a feature of our political discussion? So we know what's happening in the political scene right now. I mean, the game is getting really interesting, and we want to be part of this conversation. So our next TCRM talks will be on the 4th of September. Please don't miss it, and do well to extend this invitation to others so that you can have a more participatory event. And if you would like to feature on our TCM talks, do well to send us an email at info@crossrivermove.com. We would be happy to respond and feature you on our TCM talks. Then our other event, which is a TCM conversations, that will be coming up on 14th August, just next week Sunday, and it's still focused on International Youth Day, and we'll be highlighting on youth participation in present day politics. Like, we just have to be involved. What is it? Okay, so if you are on Facebook and Twitter, kindly follow us on Cross River Move at Cross River Move so that you can get updates on our event. And please, I'd like you to look at the chat box. You'll find our YouTube link. Please click on the link and subscribe so that you can have access to our videos when we upload new videos from time to time, and also get a notification when we start our live conversations like this. Thank you so much for being part of our talks today. See you next week Sunday.